So this piece has an obvious sort of function about it, functionality, utilitarianism. You can even see the wear on the top of the table and the way the leg swings out to support it, and it would have been moved to the side of a room to make space.
Yeah, it also has this kind of medieval presence, like if it was set in a castle or something. Very dramatic and shadowy and ominous. Or, yeah, Shakespearean.
What's interesting is the interplay of different shapes here. Like the drawers and the ornaments next to the drawers, you see this rectilinear type, it's all lines and rigidity. But then there's all these nice oval shapes augmenting the beams here.
Yeah, with its usability, it's obvious. Like it's very utilitarian. Yeah,
It's obviously a table.
Oh yeah.
They look like columns to me, and do you guys see how like almost if you're lying down and looking up, this could be something that would line the hallways of a monastery or some
It's
kind
even
of
like a mosque
older
sort of
palace.
has this
Yeah.
carving.
Interesting that it expresses a monumentality or permanence. Is
It
it
has almost like this dollhouse miniature like quality to it that I find really charming. I think it adds to the drama that Mike was talking about.
Yeah, it's like the dark kind of German dollhouse type thing.
And the lack of the shine, the lack of the sheen as the finish adds to sort of that weight and heaviness, I think.
There's no like shimmery glittering effect that we were
Yeah.
talking about.
It's also a secret drawer. There's no handles.
So it has that.
So there's these two grooves. We should
So you reach in underneath.
Yeah, again,
and then
so
pull.
So it's
that's
interesting.
even like a hidden functionality, much more
Yeah.
less overt.
This whole space here is like a show space. Like these are almost like a porch column.
Yeah, again, the architectural, it's like a hallway.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like a proscenium or something on a
Right.
stage. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like a mini theater.
Yeah.
Again,
Yeah.
going
That's
back to
pretty
the Shakespearean.
Oh yeah,
drama
you know, the wood stage, you know, like the Globe Theater.
Yeah.
So this is almost maybe the most architectural part because
Yeah.
this is something that will be on a building. From there, it becomes a piece of furniture again, a bit with this piece. I think is very much
And with the drawers and
yeah.
Well, it really is the top
Mm-hmm.
that becomes what?
A roof
Yeah,
Or-
yeah,
or a
or a table.
Yeah.
But what do you guys think they would use this for? It's small, so I don't think it's for dining.
I just imagine someone writing stuff on here.
yeah. There's
Just
like
sitting
cut
next
marks.
to it and just writing some
Weird.
letters. It's got
Well,
like a little drawer.
It'll be like this.
Yep.
Yeah.
Against the wall. It's very thin. You put something on top, and probably down here. It's like the stage in two ways. But then it has a a high function, and it also like it. I could see this needing to be used as another table. Like
There are
for-
way more marks. Like,
Right, exactly.
like incisions.
So this
when
one
it's
seems to
open.
be
Yeah,
used a
like
lot.
this is the choice function of it is
Yeah.
open.
Well, then, I mean, from the markings, it kind of it seems like it's more of a utilitarian use.
And it's
Some-
evenly
somewhat.
used, yeah.
Yeah. True. Well, it could go by the front door potentially. I mean, especially if we thought like this. This is pretty worn, not just from the swinging, but also in this
Yeah.
area. But then also, part of me wants to think it's like kitchen almost because of
It's
how.
too nice for a
But it's
kid.
Yeah,
too
that's
nice.
true.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
true. Massive books have these
All the
kind of
leather, the
knots
leather.
Oh,
and,
yeah,
and
yeah, it's a bit like
ridges and
leather.
yeah,
Mhm.
it reminds me of a library. Yeah, which is interesting
Yeah,
because
but-
that's also an accomplishment, especially at the time, and
Yeah.
how many books you could afford to have printed and.
It really kind of coalesces into this, it's almost like a mannerist sort of hierarchy of everything you can do about controlling the elements. It reminds me of the Shakespearean play, The Tempest, about just sort of coming to this island environment that's almost kind of like a mini America in itself. And then like the whole idea is that you conquer the elements, you control it for greater good, a greater transmutation. It's still a natural element, it's wood,
Right.
but it's been made better because man has improved it. There's a sense of symmetry to it now.
There's ink stains.
See the upper edges
And over there, too,
standing
some
down
stain
here,
in the
corners.
right, yeah.
Huh. So now this totally made me think of Emily Dickinson, I believe. I was hearing a story of how she would get up like at 2 in the morning to write poetry for herself.
But then she's working in like mid-19th century, so we bring this back to the 17th century, and again, suddenly there's this appreciation for how rare this form is.
Yeah.
To imagine that you're sort of battling the elements out in rustic colony life, and then, you know, you might take out your little side table and then convert it into a lettering table and then just scribble on top of it. But just that whole activity is like this new emergence of, I don't know, gentility, I guess. But also literacy. And to us, this table is firmly in the 17th century, about 1650s to 60s. There's this preoccupation with geometry, order, and architecture that you don't quite see in the more whimsical shapes of the later 18th century with its obsession with naturalistic forms. Here we sort of get down to the very basics. So the circles, the ovals, the rectilinear, the triangles here on top of the rectangles. And then the
Big
tabletop is, Casey mentioned how, and also Mike mentioned just how unadorned it is, almost as if it's floating on top of this, sectional drama here with all the, hallways and curved, architectural, ornaments.
Yeah. Normally at that time, like, someone would have to have a lot of money to buy a table this unusual because you don't use it for eating dinner on with your family.
Having the means to dispatch them, to compose them, the time to write.
And writing as like a form of art and poetry. If we go back to it being our more basic description of it as a heavy and sort of compact table with a presence, it reinforces the fact that this would have been owned by someone who had a heavy presence in 17th century Boston or Salem.
Heavy hitters in Boston.
Yeah.
Boston. One thing we realized is that this lower part reminds us of bookbinding. They're very strong. They're all leather, and then
Sturdy. Goes
they're
back to
very
that
sturdy. Yeah,
quality of
thick,
presence.
thick leather. Thick books. They cost a lot to print. They'd be very decorated. Like they may have these knobs or something.
Poor people could not afford to have leather-bound books. These
Right.
were a gentleman's object in his study.
Generally, a gentleman's gonna like kind of boast of his library and share it. Maybe share it, but maybe just share the fact that he has all of these things
Okay,
in.
so proposal. Could this have been in a library
I can see it.
with his other writing things?
Here's our table from the 17th century. This table opens up by folding it over.
About 50 years later, we now have a falling leaf table that is supported by a wooden beam that extends all the way out.
So in the next generation of table evolution, we have these tilt-top tables, which sort of tilt up and aside when not in use.
Now, what we have here is a more direct descendant of our original mid-17th century writing desk. Mechanically, it's built very much like our writing desk, with a leg that's hidden but then protrudes out to support a tabletop. This is, however, a card table. This writing table illustrates increasing complexities and sophistication of 17th century colonial life, how people moved from mastering outside environments to really trying to control their personal interior spaces.
And then how this is relevant in our time shows us how meaningful ornamentation and decoration is. This was really communicating the meaning about the owner.
This piece also has a personal meaning for us because we've spent a few hours discussing it and processing it, unpacking its story, and that's reflective of the week that we've spent together and the week that we've had, and also our own personal narrative.